All right. You know what? I think, yeah, that's unfortunate because I do like. Oh God, you can't see my eyes at all. Can't see them at all. Well, all right. I guess we are doing it without the blue light glasses. Um, you know what? And just for extra variety, turn the cat backwards. All right. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Full Blast. I am your host, Raja Burrows, and today we are talking about deciders, but specifically in the context of the internet. So, since leaving Facebook, it has become increasingly clear to me that I need more socialization in my life. I talked about this in a previous video. And, when I started to look at other avenues for socializing. And the biggest issue was that the my issue was being conflated between, well, okay, is it a phone addiction, right? Like, is it very specifically the device that I am using that is the root of the problem? Is it the service that I'm using? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it those things in general? Is it a particular group that I am in? Is it people that I follow, the people that I interact with, right? Is it that I'm messaging too much, or is it the internet in general? Like, there were so many different factors contributing to my unhappiness as well as my happiness, right? So having left those environments, as I spoke about in the previous video, that there's the calorie deficit and that's a problem, whatever. Um, and even with these videos, there is certainly a component of, oh, I miss being able to share these myself to the OP Facebook group, right? And it's been really interesting to sort of see, like, how all of these different uses of the internet really make me feel. And the reason, starting with how it makes me feel, because that will ultimately inform what is or isn't sustainable. If something doesn't feel good or productive or is inherently nourishing, you will burn out, period. And I want to use Ed Milet as an example. So Ed Milet, double masculine, double activated TE at the top. I believe he is. I know he's a sleep blast ESTJ. I think he's blast play consume sleep, right? But he's got single activated FI at the bottom. And I don't know, they talked about him a lot recently, but I remember for a while, like, Ed Milet was like, this is the guy to fucking model your life after, which, honestly, all things considered, you could do worse than Ed Milet. I think you can do a little better, but you could do way worse than Ed Milet in terms of, like, role models. And he talks about, he had a lot of health issues and he's having, like, the heart problems, whatever. And his sort of recurring touchstone, when he's like, I don't want to get up at 4 a.m, he would snap his fingers. And he has a better snap than, like, anybody I've ever met. Just as a side note, watch him talk about what I'm about to talk about. But he'll be like, if there's ever something I don't want to do, he'll be like, Bella's wedding. Bella is his daughter. And the doctor basically told him, if you don't clean up your act right now and maintain that, then you will not be alive to see your daughter's wedding. And for him, that, like, locked it into place. And he's like, oh, right, anytime I don't want to do something for my health, Bella's wedding. And it immediately gets him to go and do that. Now, what I think that analogy is missing, where I think a lot of people go wrong with using that analogy and sort of trying to apply that lesson to their own lives, is that it isn't about discipline. And I love Joe Rogan, again, another double masculine TE at the top, EJ. I love that his stance on this has evolved, because if you watch videos from before, versus now he doesn't talk about it quite as much, or certainly in a very different context. But he was all about like, I want to be around disciplined people. I want to be around people who have discipline. And there's an interview that he does with Rob Lowe. I would love to know what Rob Lowe's type is, just because. But he's talking to Rob Lowe about alcoholism and being addicted to alcohol. And he's like, it must be crazy to have that kind of discipline. And, where do you get that discipline from to stay sober for 30 years? And Rob Lowe is like, okay, well, the trick is that you have to understand that it isn't about discipline, because no amount of discipline will sustain you. You will eventually break. You cannot sustain discipline, at least in the conventional sense, for very long, depending on how long you define very long. And he said, and then it gets into the James Clear stuff about you got to build habits, and it's about changing your identity to I am a person who does this and not whatever, right? But, it's really easy to look at the Ed Mylett example as an example of discipline, because it's like, oh man, he's so disciplined and all he needs to do is have that one little thing and it just gets him out and it lets him accomplish what he is setting out to accomplish. That's true to an extent, but I think it's missing a bigger portion of it. This is not, oh, I want to be alive until 65, or I want to make it to my 70s, or I want to live until whatever. It's not that. It's very specifically harnessing and leveraging his relationship with his daughter. And that is incredible. Like, he loves his daughter. That is a sustainable outlet for his energy and intention. So focusing on that works for him because he already has that nourishment. It is not goal-oriented in the sense of, like, yes, it's goal-oriented because it's, okay, here is a thing, Bella's wedding. Again, and who the fuck knows if Bella's going to get married? She's going to be a grown woman at that point. She can do what she wants with her life. But the mind hack of that, it's less goal-oriented than it seems. Because, again, it is really about, oh, I love my daughter. I want to continue to support my daughter and help her grow into a, wise and generous and caring, compassionate woman. And I want to teach her, what to look for in a partner and to instill good value. Like, all of those things, those are all process-oriented goals. Again, you have the little touchstone of Bella's wedding that seems like a goal, but there's so much process underneath it that it works, right? And where I think people fuck that up is that they go to, well, what is the goal that I want to achieve? I promise we're going to get to the internet and deciders in a second. I just got to tie up this one thing at the end. They go straight to, well, if I want to get 10,000 followers on Twitter so that I can have a verified account, right? Or, oh, I want to have a certain body fat percentage, or I want a certain level of success or money, or honestly, even just like the gratification that will come with having achieved something, right? It doesn't have to be all external metrics. It can also be very internal, right? Again, DE and DI are both susceptible to this. When you're looking for a goal, that's going to fuck you up. Eventually, your discipline will break. And then you'll be like, why didn't I do it? I wasn't disciplined. No, it was never about the discipline. So why do I bring all of that up in the context of the internet? Well, I think about, not being able to share things to Facebook, not being able to connect with people. And, I have a YouTube channel. I'm working on it. I'm still really trying to figure out, like, how I want to do it, what I want to do with it. But realizing very quickly that just a YouTube channel, right? When you're not engaging with social media is incredibly unidirectional. And it was a word that I had not thought to ascribe this stuff to until I had coffee with a friend of mine the other day. Brilliant, brilliant doctor. She's an anesthesiologist and just an absolute fucking genius human. And I just love being around her because she is so extraordinarily smart. And I was describing my issues with social media and this and that, and she's like, yeah, well, YouTube, it's such a unidirectional platform, and there is not inherently that much engagement. There isn't. It's just that's not how the platform in and of itself is built. Now, if you promote the video to your friends, yes, you have subscribers, and over time there will be a conversation in the comments if you really focus on that. And there are certainly metrics that you can apply to your video to make it pop, to make it, rank in search and do the tube buddy. Like, there is an algorithm game you can use with it. But ultimately, it is very, here is my information for someone else to consume, but I'm not actually getting that social interaction in the moment. And one of the reasons that I sort of pumped the brakes, I don't want to say slammed the brakes, on my YouTube channel, Rugged Divine, is because I was like, okay, like, what is it about the process in and of itself of just making videos that will sustain me? And understanding that the process of making YouTube videos is not going to inherently hit the DEDI button for me. Like, it's not going to have that connection significance. There are other things that do. But if I want to have a YouTube video, I have to be okay with it not hitting that feeling of satisfaction in the social component. Again, doesn't mean I'm not going to do it, but it does mean that I need to hit it in a different way. It means that I need to look at the platform differently and understand, like, okay, what is going to actually sustain me doing this for the sake of doing it. So, for instance, the reason that I have been able to stick with fitness over an extended period of time, so I have been involved in fitness, interested in fitness, however you want to put it, since February of 2017. So by now we are looking at we're looking at 4.5 years of being somebody who is into fitness and for whom fitness matters a great deal. That does not mean that I have a perfect body. It doesn't mean that I am in the fitness body fat percentage. It doesn't mean that I couldn't do more of it. But in terms of, like, having it be a thing that just matters to me to always consider, it's been about 4.5 years. And the reason that it's stuck is because it has a built-in positive feedback loop. Until I get to I would really have to be at the single, like, 5 to 8% body fat, and also weighing what I weigh now, for me to start to see those diminishing returns. I am way off of being as fit as I could be. Like, not even in the ballpark, which is great. It's fantastic. I love it. Because my incentive to work out is that I get to work out more and better and harder. Meaning, the goal, like, it very much is that feeling of the journey is the destination, right? If I go to the gym 3 times this week and I eat right before the gym and after the gym, and then on my off days, if I'm cognizant about what I'm eating, that will let me have more fun at the gym and do better, harder workouts at the gym, right? So going to the gym makes the gym experience more enjoyable. That is the kind of feedback loop that we are looking for all the time. All the time. Because that's actually sustainable. So what does the internet do that isn't that? Well, the internet, regardless of whether you have save your DE, save your DI, EJ, IJ, EP, IP, does not fucking matter. The internet tends to reward unidirectional communication. Here's what I mean by this. It means that the only collaboration is really a transaction, either in the form of money or likes or views or some sort of measurable, tangible exchange of, the marker of attention for goods, for services rendered, right? So meaning if I am a YouTube creator, right? The internet sets up this interaction where my reward for doing it is either in the form of likes, views, comments, money generated through affiliate marketing, whatever, right? That's kind of tough, right? And if your goal is any one of those metrics, then you're gonna have a rough time. Because the interaction, like there is a filter to the interaction inherently, right? It is, I'm interacting in the form of a comment. Someone's interacting in the form of a like. It's not, there's no rawness to that energy exchange. It's always, oh, I'm going to, express that I got value out of what you did with a like, with a comment, with a view, with a click on the affiliate marketing link, with a click on a Patreon page, with some form of being able to represent appreciation. Conversely, when you're in person, a lot of those things are stripped away. Not all of them. Obviously, you can express appreciation by paying for someone's movie ticket or for, paying for dinner, right? But if you buy dinner for somebody, right, you take somebody out on a date and you're there for anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. And if you want a second date with that person, you have to be present. Like you just do. Even if it's like a sugar daddy, sugar mama relationship, however you roll, right? This is so far from the truth that I'm using this as an example because it is so deeply untrue. So if I have a sugar mama, right? If I have an older lady in my life, who just likes to take me out on dates and pay for things, then if I want to continue that sugar mama relationship, I have to actually add value to the dinner. Because if her whole thing is like, well, I just want a hot guy to have dinner with, there are plenty of hot guys out there. Like there is no shortage of very, very attractive men, especially in Los Angeles. So the value that I bring transactionally, whether it's status, hotness, whatever, that's not a commodity. The value that I bring is personality, insight, the energy, and more importantly, the energy exchange that my DI has with her DI. And if that exchange isn't free flowing, she's not gonna want to keep buying dinner for me. Like eventually that transaction will run out. The value of continuing those transactions will just diminish and be like, this is not worth it. I'm not getting the value out of this interaction anymore. I'm gonna find something else. So on the internet, again, regardless of, so I'm going to break it down to be like DE, how DE can run into problems, how DI can run into problems. So DE can run into problems. I don't know that it's harder. So what'll happen is if you are all in on the DE aspect of, you know, of the internet transaction game, you're going to have Gary V type issues where it's, oh, I'm going to, you know, connect with everybody and run myself into the ground and just play blast to hell. And eventually what will happen is you will try to be all things to all people in the interest of trying to get their connection, their likes, their views, their comments, their whatever. You will ultimately end up sacrificing yourself, usually pretty quickly. Because if you're like, well, let me figure out what works at the expense of what is authentic to me, you're just going to do that. And because it won't be authentic, you can't sustain it. And then you'll burn yourself out. And it's a whole fucking thing, right? So that's how the DEs can have problems on the internet. You know, going too hard into this, you know, DI-DE extreme. The DIs are going to have a slightly different challenge. So the DIs are going to, I think, be able to sustain making videos for longer and having that self-generating, like, oh my God, this is so fun. I feel good about this, whatever, whatever. But what will eventually happen is the IPs are going, I think they're going to have a much harder time when they do finally break. They're going to break super hard because they're going to be like, oh, I want to, you know what? I love making YouTube videos, or I love making whatever, you know, TikTok's been the latest game that I'm learning, you know, oh, let me actually try to level up my TikTok. Well, then they're going to go in and learn about the algorithm and be like, holy shit, I've been doing it boku bonkers wrong for 2 years. Holy shit. Now I either have to completely revamp or totally nuke or whatever. And it is possible, certainly. I'm going to say not super likely at scale that an IP who's been doing their own thing and totally all in on their self-nourishment is going to be able to just flip a switch overnight and be like, oh, this is how I do the algorithm for other, oh, great, I guess I'll just add that onto what I'm already doing. Again, there's nothing literally stopping them, but there tends to be some more blocks along the way. So, you know, and it's this thing of like, the only things that get really picked up are the things that are totally authentic and interesting and unique. But if they're authentic and interesting and unique, then they won't be able to, like, replicating that can be really hard. It's a very extreme form of these transactions. And then the IGs and the EPs also have it hard, because you would think, right, in terms of this sustainability, you would think that the IGs and the EPs would be like, oh yeah, I got the deciders in the middle, I don't really care. Well, if you don't care about the tribe game at all, then nothing you make is going to be interesting. It's not going to be authentic. It's not going to be gritty. My favorite viral video on TikTok. I can't even remember her name. Mostly holy. Let's see if it's uploaded to my computer. This is my favorite video. No, not picture. What is it? Photos. Photos. Here we go. Did it upload already? It's either Halo Mostly or Mostly Halo or something like this. Did not upload yet. Womp womp. But anyway, oh, here it is. Aha, I got it. Found it. Okay. What is... Okay, so it's called... Her username is Halo... It's Halo Mostly with 2 Y's. I'm going to put this in the... Halo Mostly. And it's one that went super viral. It was her being like, you know, it's the tanning salon lady where she's like, you know, I never get involved in shit, but this, you know, this woman with the blonde extensions, she came into my salon, and her friend is a passive aggressive bitch. It's a great video. You got to check it out. Look up tanning salon lady. I don't know, whatever. But that popped off and that went viral because it was authentic, because it wasn't this like manufactured, this is what the trend. No, it was her telling an honest story about the tanning salon and like popping off to the internet, and it caught fire, and it's my favorite thing I've ever seen on the internet, right? So the EGs and the IPs, it's really easy for us to just get stuck in algorithm land and to just go, well, this is what the algorithm says I should do. If I play the algorithm game right, then obviously I'll be fine. That's not going to work. But more importantly, if your deciders are in the middle, you're going to be aware of the ways in which your DI's needs are getting met. You're going to be aware of the ways in which your DE's needs are or aren't getting met. And you'll figure out really quickly, which is sort of the issue that I ran into, is no, I'm not going to run myself into the ground, but it will also be like, wait a minute. I have 2 needs that need to get met. Only one of them is getting met, doing it the way I'm doing it. That's not going to work. I need to mix it up, right? So all of this is to say, the reason the internet is so tough on your deciders is because it encourages this sort of unidirectional communication. And it encourages communication, and the reward for that comes in the form of likes, comments, shares, money through Patreon, money through bath water that you're selling, whatever it may be, right? And built into that is not really this kind of like honest back and forth energetic exchange. It's one party is creating content to be consumed, and whether that's the value is education or information or distraction or hot note, whatever it may be. And then that person is reciprocated on the platform through some sort of metric or marker or something tangible, right? And that just isn't a sustainable way to live. You have to have genuine collaboration. There has to be an honest, earnest energy exchange between you and your fellow tribe members that can't be quantified. And I'll tie it back around, in true NI fashion. I love doing that. To this coffee that I have with my anesthesiologist friend, there was no way to quantify how much value we got out of that coffee interaction, right? I paid for my own coffee. She paid for her own coffee. We then just sat and talked and caught up, because it's been 2 years since we've seen each other because of the pandemic. She was studying for her boards. And then, before vaccination, when the cases were still really high, it wasn't really safe for us to hang out because she works in the hospital. So, but, when we had our coffee, catch up, we didn't then walk away and give a like or a rating or apply some sort of metric to that interaction. There was no way to do that. And as a result, it was a great coffee catch up because we both left being like, I got value out of being present with you. The other person was like, I got value out of being present with you. How much? I don't know. Whether it was fair or not didn't fucking matter. It was, I got value out of the time I spent. You got value out of the time you spent. We should do this again because we both got value. And I don't really care who got more. We both got enough. So that's fine. Now, obviously, if that disparity gets too big, that can be a problem. Or if one person's like, well, I don't need to get that much value. I'm set. No, it has to be nourishing and fulfilling and at least, again, in the ballpark of a fair exchange. But, these genuine collaborative interactions that it's obviously, you can obviously have them over the internet for sure. But I don't think the internet encourages or incentivizes that kind of non-measured human interaction. The incentives on the internet are to measure communication, interaction, value given, right? Whereas in real life, it isn't. To throw it back to the late 80s, early 90s, honestly, even to the early 2000s, right? When people went to work in offices, the value was not the money. It's never been the money. The money is necessary to keep society functioning and to be able to get approved for apartments and pay mortgages and things like that. But really the value is you show up every day, you get some amount of work, you work for maybe 3 or 4 hours a day, but the rest of the time you're sitting at your desk, you're at the water cooler, you're having conversations, you're not generating revenue, you're not generating productivity, you're not seeing immediate returns on the work that you're doing. It's just you're exchanging energy with yourself and the environment. That's all you're doing. And you're not quantifying that. It's just happening. And so I think it's all, to sort of tie, I know we're now over the 30-minute marker. Sorry, not sorry. The biggest thing that I would say, as a takeaway is be really aware of when you are on the internet, how you are being incentivized to behave and value the behavior of others. Doesn't mean you should listen. I'm about to start a TikTok channel, right? I started the account and working on how to do the videos. I have no delusions about the value that I want to get from that. None whatsoever. Because I understand, oh, right, this is what the platform incentivizes. Okay, do I want to opt into that or not? Yes or no, right? But I'm not going into it thinking I'm going to use TikTok to make a new best friend. I'm not using TikTok to, I don't know, add, everlasting value to the world of thought. No, it's, I am doing it as an extension of my career as a media professional and because the reach that is possible on TikTok is so much higher than it is on other platforms because of the autoplay feature, because it, you know, these 15-second bite-sized chunks, whatever. If that's what, you know, is encouraged and incentivized, okay, let me opt into this game and see how I feel doing it. And let me see if I'm really, you know, if the reward is that I get to do more TikTok and do it better. And if I like that feeling, regardless of the external metrics, regardless of the ways in which my behavior becomes transactional in the form of likes, comments, subscribe, share, money, fame, whatever, irrespective of all of that, do I still like doing it? That's what we're going to find out. And that's what, if you're on the internet, that's what I encourage you to seek out and to say, the internet is great for transactions. So do I like the transaction that is happening? And then getting off the internet, doing something completely different that will give you an authentic, non-measured exchange of energy that feels good for different reasons. All right, that's all I got for today. I'm gonna wrap this up. As always, please be sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment. I love to hear from you guys. As always, I love you. I see you. Now let's do the damn thing.